everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for our next installment of this Child Life Q&A here with Annie Gunning, Hope for HIE's Child Life Specialist. Hi, Annie. How are you doing today?
Hello, thank you for having me again. I'm doing good, thanks.
Good. As everyone knows, at Hope for HIE, we truly do keep grieving families close to our hearts every single day, and we really try to be take those all the decisions we make at Hope for E and think about how this impacts all of our families across all ranges and all outcomes. And I know that it's the last day of July, but July is Bereaved Parents Month. And Annie, you came out earlier in the month with a resource to help families honor and remember their loved ones who have passed from HIE and help them navigate some of those complex emotions. And so we said, you know what, this would be a great opportunity to kind of expand on that resource and just give these families another outlet and some more activities for remembrance and how to honor special occasions, you name it. So that's going to be our topic of a conversation today. But before we dive in, as always, for families who may or may not know, Annie, do you mind just introducing yourself really quick and tell us who you are and what you do for Hope for HIE as our child life specialist and certified grief counselor?
Yes, of course. I'm glad we're talking about this, and especially in our month of July and our Bereaved Parents Month. And like Deanna said, I just wanted to be able to give a few more suggestions about how we do honor our loved ones on special days, because that can be just extra triggering, and you have even bigger and more emotions on those and around those days. So as a child life specialist, my job is to help families cope with stressful situations. Typically that involves something healthcare related or in the hospital. So that could be I help them prepare for surgery or an upcoming hospitalization, or I help the family cope, including the siblings during that long hospitalization because there's separation. Any kind of new diagnosis, or whether that be an acute or chronic diagnosis. So anything that's helping them cope, understand what is happening to them in this stressful situation. And the main goal is really to reduce any kind of fear, anxiety, and pain. And also as a child life specialist, I've worked with a lot of families with grief and bereavement in the hospital. So preparing and helping those families with end of life, talking to the children and the families. How do we talk about this really hard topic? How do we talk about death and dying? So I've always worked with children and families in the hospital setting in that type of situation. But then recently, within the past couple of years, I also got certified in grief counseling because in my own practice, I work a lot with hospice and palliative care and then other grief organizations in the community. So I support a lot of siblings who have lost a parent or a sibling, or I work with a lot of siblings in the palliative and hospice arena as well.
Yes.
So that's a lot of therapeutic activities, a lot of one-on-one interventions, a lot of talking and reading books. And that's what I want to kind of get into a little bit more.
Yes. So we can start really by going over some of those common grief responses, because I know, as you know, as a certified grief counselor, you do have extensive experience working with grieving families and children, as you just told us. So can you share some of those common grief responses that you see in children and maybe explain how they vary based on age or developmental stages, as we often see throughout our community?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm going to this is, of course, overall in general. And we know it's very specific to each family and child, but this is very general. And I will give some information, but Deanna will, or I will give a more comprehensive list following in the blog or
Yeah.
an additional post. So we're going to give kind of some main points now, but I really do want to make sure we get enough time to focus on like the activities and
Right.
things we can do to celebrate our person who has died. So for infants and toddlers, it's what I would say about 0 to 3. They have no concept of death, but they do notice that things are different or missing. So you still see responses and changes in them, like increased irritability, some clinginess, changes in sleeping and eating patterns, inability to soothe themselves like maybe they used to be able to. When they're a little bit older, like get a little bit older than that, tolerate repeated questions, repeated asking, what happened, where are they? And we're just going to keep answering that. temper tantrums, and just increased crying and anxiety. And we help them with just a consistent routine, short, honest information about the death, provide opportunities for play. That's how they're processing. That's how they're interacting and learning about their world. Set limits, because toddlers always want to test the limits. So we're going to set limits, but we're going to be flexible if we need to be. Give appropriate choices to offer control. They can't have control over everything. What cup do you want to use? You want to use this cup or this cup? Do you want to use this spoon or this, like appropriate, viable choices? It gives them a little bit of that control back in a situation where they have no control anymore.
Right.
And then provide a lot of physical and emotional connections and nurturance, lots of hugs and kisses and snuggles and things like that. Hold on one second. Sorry.
No,
Let
you're
me
good.
scroll. So we'll go through kind of each age group,
Yeah.
and because
I know.
there's so much.
Annie's
It can
always
be
so
very
prepared. She has extensive notes. So she just give her a minute to scroll. She's so
Yes, I have to scroll. Sorry.
It's okay.
Because this topic also is just very near and dear to my heart. I love supporting these families, especially in my private practice. So I want to make sure I give all the best information that I can. So for 3 to 5 year olds, we have our concrete and magical thinkers. They are thinking of death still as reversible. When are they coming home? What time are they going to be back? And we're going to keep giving that simple, honest information of what happened. They may feel responsible for the death because they had a thought about something. I acted bad, and so that's why the person died. It's that magical thinking. That's just their developmental stage that they're in. Their common responses are irritability, bedwetting if they were previously potty trained, or any kind of regression. Maybe they didn't suck their thumb and now they're sucking their thumb. Clinginess and temper tantrums, changes in sleep and eating patterns again, a lot of difficulties with changes, and especially changes in routine, separation anxiety, lots of questions still. And then physically, it can come out in headaches and stomach aches. And how do we help them? We're going to validate all their feelings. And if we're going to model the appropriate expressions. If you're feeling sad, you can cry in front of them. That's okay. We're letting them know that that's okay. We're going to ensure all their safety and love. You're safe. I'm here to keep you safe. I'm here to help you. Provide opportunities for play, creative expression, and processing. The viable choices, again, just like you would for the little bit younger group. Lots of routine and predictability for them. If things are going to change, give them a little bit of preparation for that. You can read lots of books about grief. I have a huge library of books about grief that I love, and we will also provide that list for all age groups, and we will attach that as a separate document at the end.
Yes.
And then firm limits for them, but flexibility is needed. So they have to have those firm limits. Kids thrive and grow off of boundaries and limitations. So they still need that. So offering them like, oh, let them do that, they're sad, or let them, they can't have all of that freedom because they need the boundary and limit setting. Offer opportunities to be included in any kind of funeral or burial preparation. So offer them appropriate choices if they want to be involved, and small things that they could do so they are involved. And then for our school age kiddos, they're still concrete thinkers and have some magical thinking in the earlier years, but they're beginning to understand some more of those abstract thoughts and starting to understand when they get older that the death is no longer irreversible, and that it's permanent. And they have a lot of questions about death, and their common responses: changes in eating and sleeping again, feelings about their safety or abandonment. If it was a parent or somebody's gone in their life, let's just, we want to let them know that they're safe. There's people around them that love them and care for them, and who those people are. Strong and quick changes in their mood, then they're fine and playing the next. That's how they're processing. So you might tell them something that you think is really big, and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they just ran off and played. That's them processing. We can hold a lot of information and emotions all at one time. We can have grief all day long. Kids don't do that. They don't sit in it that way. They do pockets of it or periods of it. Lots of questions, then physical complaints, the headaches, the stomach aches, and regressive behaviors as well might be noticed. So we want to help them by providing opportunities for the play, creative and expressive, get lots of those emotions out. We want to have opportunities for them to get all of that stuff out. Be prepared to answer the same questions. Offer answers about the death that are simple and honest. You can say the person's name, so and so died, their heart stopped beating, their body stopped working, and they can't eat or play or talk, and they're not coming back, or their
Mhm.
body died. So just simple repeated answers, I'm sorry. Provide routine and opportunities for choice again, allowing them to talk about the person and talk about the death. Even if it's hard, they need that opportunity to ask those questions and know that it's okay. Lots of
Mhm.
physical and emotional nurturing and reassurance of their safety as well. For our a little bit old now, we're getting a little bit older. Our 9 to 12-year-olds, they have an understanding of death as inevitable and permanent for everyone. They know that once someone dies, that they're not coming back, and they might have more anger or guilt than sadness, though the sadness obviously is still there, and they may withdraw from others in an attempt to disguise that grief and that sadness. Maybe some more acting out, worrying. I see this a lot in kids this age, worrying that something else bad is going to happen. Who's going to die next?
Mhm.
Is somebody else going to die? And then asking more detailed questions too about about the death. They want to know a little bit more. So we're going to answer them, and we're going to avoid, with all these age groups, avoid euphemisms. Passed away, went up to heaven, went to be with Jesus. Whatever your beliefs are, like those are okay.
Mhm.
Include your faith, but saying the things that happened and that the person died and what that means is really important.
Mhm.
And not just saying, well, I could go on and make a whole nother topic, but not just saying sick, because then there's worries about, well, next time somebody else gets sick, is that going to happen to them? So it
I
needs to be
see.
differentiation. We're going to model appropriate emotions again, work to reestablish any kind of routine and safety, and listen. The older kids, especially, they need you to listen. They don't always need advice. They need you to sit and listen and know that you hear them.
Mhm.
And then help them identify people and activities to cope. So, who are their people? Is it a coach at school? Is it a teacher? Is it a really good friend? But they need you to help them know that there's other people around them that can help them as well.
Yeah.
And lastly, we got our teenagers. They can be a tricky bunch.
Mhm.
Um, Obviously, they have a complete understanding, very abstract thought of what death is and its finality. And they may act as if nothing has happened and try to hide their feelings. And they need a lot of, they may say they don't need any help and support. And I've worked with a ton of teens in my school programs, and they come in the group and they're always fine. But the more we have our groups, and the things I see them write out is always just shocking to me, because they're not
Yeah.
fine, but
Right.
they express it in a different way. They like, a lot of times they like to write it instead of just talking about it.
Yeah.
So they may demonstrate anger, guilt more than sadness as well. And because it's likely to be denied when they're teenagers, it might come out in other ways, like more physical, like more risky behaviors, failing grades, um, like headaches, stomach aches, social, behavior changes. So those are kind of like the red flags you want to watch out for too.
Yeah.
Those things are happening a lot. That means we need to have somebody just come in and maybe just acknowledge them, sit down, and let's talk to them.
Yeah.
So we're going to keep modeling that appropriate expression and feelings, like, hey, it's okay if you feel sad. I feel sad too. Are you mad? I am so mad too. And that's all okay.
Yeah.
Help them identify their peer supports and those other adults in their life. At this age, their main support group is going to be their peers. So they might not necessarily come to family members. And kids also a lot of times like to protect their parents or their family members because they don't want to see you sad, or they don't want to see you cry.
Yeah.
So going to an outside person can be really helpful for them.
Yeah.
And just giving the teens space to process and adjust to this new experience, this new life, and maybe changing the expectations you have for them a little bit.
Mm.
Lots of open-ended questions and listening. Not necessarily giving advice, but just the open-ended questions. And then
Mhm.
reinforce their safety and security and love. I love you no matter what. I'm here to help you and support you, keep you safe.
Yeah.
Like,
I
okay.
know.
I know
I
that's a ton
know.
of question, but I wanted to make sure we got that in there.
And we're gonna break it down, like you said, and that way into, like, digestible pieces too. Another huge that was all for, children or siblings, but parents have to go through this grief too, and they have to manage their grief while also helping kind of navigate the grief of their other child if they do have another child at home. And I can imagine that's probably one of the hardest things that they can do.
Mhm.
So I suppose my question is, what are some strategies or what are some advice or approaches that we can give to them to help them navigate that really, really complex, task?
Yes, absolutely. I think this is one of the hardest things that a human would have to go through and deal with is not only are you trying to deal with and cope with your own grief, but you're also
Mhm,
helping a grieving child.
mhm,
And I do work with a lot of parents who are doing that. And, you know, it it's unimaginable, but it's there. And so helping them through that, seeking your own therapy and support groups
mm,
for yourself can be very beneficial. Find a local organization that offers support to both you and your child. I know where we're at here. We do a group where the kids meet and the parents meet. Like it's all like a one, every Monday night from for 1 hour, and then all the groups kind of break off. So
I see.
check in your community to see if you have something like that in your community. I'm always happy. I have a lot of resources, so I'm happy to look anything up and see if you have anything in your
Mhm,
community. Model those healthy coping strategies. Like you're having a hard time, you don't have to necessarily go hide every time you need to cry or be sad. You don't want your child to be the one comforting you and helping take care of you, but it's
right.
also okay to express those feelings because that's normal.
Yeah.
Share how your feelings of grief. Share your feelings of grief, even if your child doesn't want to talk about theirs. Like it's okay for you to still talk about that. It helps you. And then
Yeah.
find a project or activity maybe to do together, like just something. I've had lots of parents say they don't want to talk to me about it. They never talk to me about it. And it
Mm,
doesn't necessarily have to be a big talking conversation between the two of you, but doing something just together with you and your child is expressive, it's bonding, it helps that relationship. And then while you're doing those things, you might both just find stuff that you want to share about the person that you're missing.
yeah.
Or maybe it's through art and they're expressing things, and you are too, without even necessarily having to use words, but you're still able to express and bond that way. And
Mhm,
spend time alone in your grief is okay too. Like it doesn't all have to be out in the open, obviously. You can have that alone time and sit in it. I always tell you, acknowledge it, you feel it, it's there, but don't get stuck and dwell in it.
right, right. Um, as you said before, you have a lot of resources for helping families kind of navigate special occasions, important dates where maybe they feel that grief. They always feel it, but maybe more heavily. I don't know if that's the right word on those days. So things like anniversaries or holidays and birthdays, I imagine, can be particularly
Mhm,
challenging for families who are
mhm.
grieving. So, what are some thoughtful or meaningful ways that they can commemorate these special days while honoring their loved ones who have died, um, and in a way where they everyone can kind of still kind of feel connected through this and come
Yeah.
together. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of things that we can do and families can do so they do still have that connected feeling. It's connection in a different way. The person isn't there anymore, obviously, but there's still other ways we can and other things we can do to feel connected to our person and honor them, during a family holiday or, a birthday or something like that.
Mhm,
So there's a few things that I have a list of a few things, and then again, we can add more.
mhm,
um, but honoring them during your past traditions, but knowing that it's okay to change those traditions too. So maybe as a family, you talk about like what traditions do we want to keep and what new ones do we want to make. So just again, whatever those traditions are for you, do we all do this together? And we have a picture of them there with us. And this was a really fun thing to do with them here. But since they're not here anymore, we're going to change it this year and do it a different way. Both of those things are ideas. It just depends on what the family wants to do.
mhm,
You can make a special recipe that they made or enjoyed, or go to their favorite restaurant. I have a lot of kids tell me that special recipes that they had, or restaurants they like to go to celebrate a birthday or a special holiday, a donation in their honor to an organization they loved. So it doesn't even have to be something they were involved in, but maybe they loved gardening. So you make a donation and to plant trees.
mhm,
Just something that they love doing or something about them can just be a special way to honor them. Make cards or gifts and decide where you want to put them. So I just had a family that I was working with, and they all decided to buy a card kit, and they all sat there together and made Father's Day cards.
Mhm.
And I think they got a lot more out of it than they thought. And then where do you want to put them? Do you want to put them up in your house on Father's Day? Do you want to take them to the cemetery or somewhere special? Make a special place at your house? You decide. But just because they're not there doesn't mean you can't get a gift, make a gift, or make a card.
Mhm.
If you're doing a family event, you can ask everyone to bring a picture of the person and invite them to share their memory about them. So, hey, I have a picture of us. I remember when we did this and it was so fun. And now every time I go outside, and by the basketball hoop, I think about when they beat me in basketball or whatever it was. So just having everybody kind of share their memories, and it gets um, a positive story going too.
Yeah.
Or have a notebook out and invite everybody to bring a picture or draw or write or color, however they can do it, a picture or story about their person. Then you have that memory. Maybe bring it out every year on this special occasion or any holiday. Invite, the family members or whoever's coming over, their friends, to add something to the special book. You can create a space for them during family gatherings. I feel like sometimes during the big family gatherings, that's maybe when you feel their absence more, when everybody's together, but they're the one person missing. So you can still create a space for them. Maybe you still have a place card for them, or you still have a chair that out for them. Those things are all okay to do. And you can still have
Mhm.
them and talk about them and honor their place. Play favorite songs. I like making playlist for the person. Like maybe as a family, you guys make a playlist of all the things that they liked, and you just have it on during their birthday or whatever holiday or anything like that. So
Mhm.
any kind of favorite songs. Making a poem or a letter about them and reading that on the holiday or the anniversary. And invite siblings to see what they want to do. How do you guys
Mhm.
want to celebrate? Like I always talk to the parents, I'm like, what do they want to do to celebrate Father's Day? Do they want to do something? Do they want to do a favorite activity? Ask the siblings to include them in what they want to do.
Yeah.
So those are a few ideas that still incorporating them and including them.
Yes. And, it doesn't have to be a special day or it doesn't have to be like a holiday or anniversary or birthday in order to do something like this. I know that you also have some general remembrance activities that families can just do if and when, right? So,
Yep.
what are some of those suggestions that you have to help families kind of engage and honor their loved one?
Yes, I have tons of these, and I was going through my stuff. Um, I wish I had some of them, but then, of course, obviously, lots of the things that I make, because I do a lot of therapeutic activities and craft stuff, as you would say. And it's with the families, of course. So I don't have a lot of things
Yeah.
here
Well,
with
the
me.
families, they get to keep them. I mean, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
But I love making these things with them or giving them the suggestions. One thing that some families have done in the past is using their loved ones' clothes and making either a blanket or stuffed animal from
Mm,
their things. So then you always have kind of a special snuggle item or something that you can kind of wrap around you. Kids have said, then I feel like I have a hug from
mm,
them. You can paint a memory candle. I love this idea. You can get like a pillar candle and you just sit and paint things on there, words, their name, if they really liked flowers or stars or whatever, put stickers on it. And then you have a special memory candle and then you use it during those special occasions or just whenever you want to light it. Maybe it's your nightlight in your room.
mhm,
You can always write them a letter or draw them a picture. Share it with your family. Talk about it. This is what you want to say. I do this a lot. My kids and my groups and individually write a lot of letters or draw pictures for their people. And then we share it. And then you can either burn it so it goes away, or we can crumble it up, or they keep it and put it
mhm,
in like a little special safe place and they add to it. Journaling favorite memories or things you want to tell them are always important, because sometimes you want to share those things, but maybe not necessarily with anybody. So just journaling and writing them out is always a good thing, just to continue with
mhm.
that memory making. You can create a memory book as a family with pictures. Nobody prints out pictures, it seems, anymore, probably. I mean, I really don't. But what a great thing to do as a family, like print out pictures and make a book together. I have a Wings of Remembrance bird feeder. I've done this with younger kids, and you just get a stick and you hang out special things on it that reminds you of that person.
Mm.
Feelings catcher. You have different colors and of tissue paper, and each feeling is a color, and then you glue them all together, and then you can hang it up, and it reminds you of that person, all the love and um, feelings that you have for them. Those, I always say this wrong, the acrostic poems, you might have their name, or it might just say brother or whatever, and then you write a word to describe them. Those can be
Mhm.
really cool. I've done those with teens, and we use lots of different art materials, and then they can frame them and keep them.
Mhm.
Let's see. I thought I had something. I have these little boxes sometimes that we use, and they paint and decorate these, and then they can keep little special things in these little memory
I like
boxes,
that.
little tiny things. I've also just used shoe boxes, any kind of container
Mhm.
you can do. These little jars. You can also, I've done like colored sand, and each
Mm.
one represents, a different feeling or a different memory about your person. I've done that.
Mhm.
And then they fill it up and they talk about the memory while they're doing it. And then they have like a little memory jar. And sometimes they even might write something on a piece of paper, a favorite memory or something they want to say to their person, and we put it in there, and
Yeah.
then they fill it up.
Nice.
The last memory stones are great. I've done lantern ceremonies where everybody just kind of talks about their person. We light a little, light a little candle.
Mhm.
And then holiday ornaments. There's ways you can do like different ribbons, and each ribbon means a different memory. And it's a plain ornament, and you can fill it up with all the different colored ribbons that
Oh,
represent different memories. And I've done that
yeah.
a lot with groups too.
Yeah.
And then we share and talk about it. But even if you don't want to share and talk about it, you still have it and you know what it means.
Right. And I feel like there's a lot of versatility to a lot of these, to like for families to take the idea, even the general idea of it and fit it, modify it so it fits their
Yeah.
family and their comfort level and so I really like that.
Yeah, you're
When we
100%
post all
right.
these, we'll have like little descriptions of, how you envision them. But just know that there's always the disclaimer that like, take bits and pieces of it, and do what
Mhm.
works best for your family.
Yeah, absolutely.
We would love to end more with what are just some recommended resources, because you are not only a child life specialist, but you are also a certified grief counselor. So I know that you're kind of tuned in to maybe some of those resources or organizations that other families may not know about. So do you mind kind of reviewing some of those, and then we'll be sure to link them on our key takeaways and blog.
Yes, absolutely. And most of these they have resources of additional information about grief, how to support kids with grief, toolkits, different activities you could do. Some of these, you might find some of these same type of remembrance activities. They might have camps, or even some of them have local chapters. So I'm just going to go through and list, and then these were some of my favorites. There's a million, and
Mhm.
these are just a lot that I use. So NACG is the National Association for Children's Grief. And I'm also a member of that organization. I find a lot of great information there for myself and for my families. The Dougie Center is support for children, teens, and young adults before and after a death, which can be
Mhm.
important because some organizations are just post, and sometimes you need a little bit of support before, after some anticipatory
Mhm.
grief. The Courageous Parents Network has a lot of sibling information, and then also for caring for caregivers. The Support Spot app by Child Life on Call, which
Mhm.
we've talked about before. All of our families have free access to that app. There's a lot of grief resources on there as well that I
Mhm.
use. And the Compassionate Friends is a support group for parents, siblings, and grandparents. And they have a lot of information and support groups. So some of them have support groups that are in person, some also have virtual. And then just for Hope for HIE, we do have loss support groups
Mhm.
on Facebook, and virtual support groups that Haley, our social worker, does.
Yes, those are the second Thursday of every month, the lost ones. Mhm. And then, there are also like Hope for each HIE, we have a super sibs group also specific for siblings who have lost a
Hmm.
sibling to HIE as well.
Hmm.
So I know there's a lot of resources out there. And like Annie, you said before, I mean, we have a child life specialist on call. We also have Haley Thomas, our social worker, on call. Both of you are able to talk to families to kind of see where they are and plug them into and do research and plug them into like local organizations and groups too, right?
Yes, yes, absolutely. Even like sometimes, I will ask Haley or she'll ask me if she's looking for something specific for a family, and I can look up resources on specific grief things that she's needing, and we can get that to a family. So yes, we are definitely always here for email, phone call, reach out to us
Yeah.
on Facebook. We're
Yeah.
happy to help.
I mean, you guys are a good team. I mean, it's all like you guys just talked about collaborative care and like you work together, right? So reaching out to one of you is ultimately, in a way,
Mhm.
reaching out to both of you too,
For
because you
sure.
guys do collaborate so much. So, yeah, visit HIE.support to kind of to reach out and put in that in your need request, and you
Request.
guys will
Yep.
reach out. Yes.
Hmm.
Thank you so much for helping us and giving us tools and strategies for these families, Annie. And like we said before, these will be turned into key takeaways. And if you're looking for any of these descriptions or activities, just in a little bit more detail, more than we can do in a 30-minute Q&A, obviously, then that's why we have the blog that you can kind
Hmm.
of go back to as a constant resource. And
Hmm.
that will be posted on our website, hopeforhie.org, in the next week or so.
Okay.
Knowing me,
Yeah.
less,
Yeah.
less than a week.
I'm
So
sure.
I'm sure. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And Annie, I know that we will meet later on this week for another to figure out what our next installment of our Child Life Q&A will be. Until
Yep.
then, everyone, thank you and have a wonderful day.
Yep. Thank you. Bye.